Hello everyone, this is Michael from Make It WordPress, and today I'm going to look into Cyberpanel, which is a web hosting control panel. But first, small introduction. Who am I? I'm Michael from Make It WordPress, and I'm on quest to find the best possible of WordPress. And in this quest, I'm looking for ways to have the best possible WordPress hosting. And I'm looking in various kinds of hosting, and now I'm looking into a control panel, which is actually a way of hosting WordPress meant for professionals. But without further ado, let's get started today with Cyberpanel. So in this video, I will show you how to install Cyberpanel on your own server, on your own VPS. I will just walk through Cyberpanel and I will install WordPress on Cyberpanel. I won't go through the whole package, through the whole platform and do all things because it's very elaborate, but I will show you a glimpse of what it can do. So what is Cyberpanel? Well, it's a web hosting control panel comparable to other control panels such as cPanel, Plesk, Direct Admin. These panels you surely know if you are a web professional. And this panel is especially made for Litespeed, which is a piece of software, a web server, and it is known for its performance. So with Cyberpanel, you can have a Litespeed powered server and do a lot of the server administration within the panel, which makes it a lot easier. And the good thing is you can just install Cyberpanel on your own VPS. Now, this doesn't work as a software as a service because the package is open source and freely available, but you need to install it on your own server, and it's not manageable from a central panel such as the other competitors of Cyberpanel I looked into, such as Ployer, WinCloud. They all have a central panel from which you can organize all your servers. But with Cyberpanel it's different. You need to download the software on your own server. And we are going to do that, and that's actually not really hard if you're a bit familiar with managing servers. I also assume you know how to log in into a server, how to SSH into a server. So let's do that. All right, as you can see, I now moved to the documentation of Cyberpanel. They have some pretty docs available, and the most important part is installing Cyberpanel, and it's very easy. You need a VPS, for example, from DigitalOcean with an OS on it, preferably one of these OSs. It needs to have some RAM, and it needs to have some disk space, and actually, you only need to copy this script that I have here and execute it on your server, and we will walk through these steps now. So here I am at the website of Vultr, and Vultr is like DigitalOcean. It's a provider of servers, of a cloud provider, so you say, and I actually really like them. They are fast, they have pretty good support, their interface is very clean. And so I will be using a Vultr to get my server for this example. So if you don't have an account, you can sign up in the link below this video. I will just walk through the login and the installation process. There we go, login. And well, I don't have any server running now, so let's deploy our first server. Very easy. Hit the plus button, and I will be doing the new high frequency package, which is a widely popular and more powerful server. It's a bit faster than the cloud compute server, and as I am living in the Netherlands, Amsterdam would be a logical choice. Also, choose a server in the location where most of your clients are. And if you remember, the Cyberpanel had some requirements in OS, and both Ubuntu and CentOS were supported. And for this, I will be looking into Ubuntu because I also have experience with Ubuntu. Now, if you're using this for serious hosting, I would really recommend you to enable the auto backups and also the DDoS protection. Which protects your website against the denial of service attack. And furthermore, I will add my SSH key. I assume you're familiar with SSH keys. If you're not, there are plenty of articles out there on how to generate your own SSH key, either for Windows or Mac. An SSH key is used to log into your server. Furthermore, well, this will be the Cyberpanel test server. We only need one server, and let's deploy it now. And there we are. This server is being deployed, and now we can move into logging into the server. Right, the server has been booted now, and we are going to install Cyberpanel. So the first thing we need to do is SSH into this server. That can be doing by having the following command. And then you need the IP address of the server. And there we go. So there's a problem with my SSH key because it expects to have a stronger encryption, so I will be needing the password of my server while it's usefully in here, in Vultr as well. It's not advised actually to use passwords, security practice, but for the sake of this exercise, I will just be using the password and paste it in there. And there we are. We are in the server. And what we need to do now is paste the command from Cyberpanel, which could be found on the Cyberpanel website, within our server and run it. And it's that easy. So I went to the Cyberpanel documentation for installing Cyberpanel and copied the command. You can also see it on the back of the screen, and paste in here. It's this command, and you just hit enter. And Cyberpanel is going to be installed, and you will go through a wizard in which you can select various things. Let's do one, because we want to install Cyberpanel. We want to use Open Litespeed, which is the free version of Litespeed. We're not by using the full service for now. We're not using remote databases. Using the latest version. For this exercise, we'll be using the default password. It's not advised because it's a very unsafe password. Memcache, we can install Memcache, which can be used to performant applications. Wedgeduck is a pretty useful script to install. And there we go. It will now take up to 10-15 minutes to install a lot of packages and stuff to run Cyberpanel. So I'll be back in a minute. And there we are, the panel is installed. So let's move to the address advertised here, which is HTTPS 45 76 39 171 port 8090 with our very unsafe username and password, and see how Cyberpanel actually looks like. So I typed in the address we have seen before, and first you have to skip the security risk because the SSH is not properly set up, and we are here in the welcome screen, and we can log in with the given credentials. And remember, if you're doing this, use more safe credentials. This is just for the sake of this video, and we can sign in now. And there we are. So this is the overview of Cyberpanel. It is a lot to take in at first sight. Well, at least it was for me, but actually it's pretty similar to other control panels out there. And in the home screen, you have an overview of all the various things you can do with the website and so forth. I will just walk through a couple of them and share an example for how to install WordPress on Cyberpanel actually. So what functions we have in here is the users function. This is very useful if you're reselling or selling hosting. You can add users to your panel and they will have their own panel login, and they can have their own environment and install their own websites. So to say, furthermore, you can control websites, which I think makes a lot of sense for itself. You can set up packages, which are predefined environments for a website, actually. So a package limits the amount of bandwidth and disk space certain websites can have. You can manage databases under databases. Cyberpanel even has the possibility to act as a DNS server, meaning that you can point the name servers of your domain to the given DNS server, and you can manage the records of your domain within Cyberpanel, which I think is great. The support for FTP to transfer files over FTP. There's a backup support. Also, emails are supported. It's possible to add email accounts and send emails from Cyberpanel, which I think is great. SSL, though I still need to explain this. And then you have a couple of other things, which are the status of your server, PHP settings, the logs, and some security-related settings. So, in the users, I can now view my current account details. It's also visible in here. I can edit my profile and also log out. This is the default setup. If you're setting up Cyberpanel, this will be the default settings. Of course, you want to change this to any of your own settings. There's also a Reseller Center in which you can manage your resellers, adjust the reselling package to new owners, and also limit the amount of websites they can resell. So this package is pretty useful for setting up a hosting business. You can also adjust ACL, which is an access control definition. And this is actually a kind of access level which you can create, and this access level you can then set up, or point to users. You can assign to users this access level, and they can only do the things that are enabled in here. Pretty great. And last, you can also set up the API access for users. So Cyberpanel has an API, which can also be used to build your own applications on top of Cyberpanel. So now that I've talked about users, let's go to the more interesting part, which is a website, and I'll be creating a new website with you. It's pretty easy. The package is default. I will talk about packages later. The owner is the actual user. Because I'm the admin, I can always select the owner. We'll be doing this at this temporary email and domain. We'll be using the newest version of PHP. So in order for this domain name to work, you need to point this domain name to the address of your server, which in this case is 45.76.39.171. So if you're a professional and if were able to install this panel, you surely will know how to point the domain into the right direction. I'll be using Cloudflare for that, and I will get back in a moment. So I went back to my Cloudflare and pointed the domain in the right direction. So if you're following this video along with me, this was the time you needed to set up your domain, point the domain to this server. And this will also allow SSL to be supported by default. And it's more easier also to set up Deacon, which is useful for better deliverability of emails. I'll create an open email and also open Baser protection. So one thing, if you don't use Cloudflare, it can take some time before the domain is pointed to the server IP. So you need to wait a little bit. If you're not using SSL, it's not strictly needed to already point your domain. You can also do it later. And we'll just hit create website. Will be a good loading spinner. And ta-da! Our website is successfully installed. Amazing! Let's go back. You can add another website if you want, but you can also go to the list of our websites and see our website, or we can choose to modify our website and select it. It's a bit strange. You can change the package and the owner and the PHP version. And we can suspend the website, which is temporary, disabling our website, and delete, of course, our website. But just let's go to list websites and hit manage. It will open up a new tab in which we can manage the website. It's using the default package by which allows 1,000 MBs of disk and bandwidth usage. And there are a couple of things we can do here. We can actually access this website over SSH and set it up here. You can create a staging environment or clone this website, which is very useful. And you can also manage the Git integration, which means that you can connect this website to a Git repository. Again, I assume you're kind of a professional when you're watching this video and know what Git is. So you can also connect the website to your Git and have updates through this Git repository. Well, these things here all make sense. I think if you're also familiar with other panels, there are some logs you can access from here. You can add and adjust the domains, add some domain aliases, which are other domains that are used by the same application. You can set up cron jobs in here, which are regular scheduled jobs. There are some other configurations here, the virtual host configuration for Litespeed server. The rewrite rules, this means how pages are redirected. You can add SSL, change PHP settings and versions. There's a file manager and there are some security on directories. So what we'll be doing now is installing WordPress, because well, Maps is all about WordPress and not purely about control panels per se, although you might think with the sheer amount of control panels you do, I'm a control panel guy. Nevertheless, I'm more a WordPress guy. So installing WordPress is very easy. We click the install WordPress button and we can just give it the title. Let's do some user. Give it some passwords. And hit install. By default, it also set up the Litespeed cache plugin, which is a great plugin for caching. So let's go and visit this host. So as you can see, WordPress is installed on the host that makes WordPress. It's just a plain WordPress installation, but as you can see, we set up a powerful control panel with WordPress under 30 minutes, and you can do a lot more with this panel. I also did some load testing with it, and I can say the performance is pretty good. The default server we're using now can handle up to 700 simultaneous users. It's not as good as some of the other control panels out there, but it's also better than a couple of others, which I think is pretty nice. Well, this is just a plain WordPress website. I will be going back to our control panel. So we have successfully installed WordPress, like I showed. Let's just go through a couple of the other features from Cyberpanel. Well, here you have the package functionality in which you can create packages that work similar as cPanel. You can create a package, specify the maximum number of amounts, disk space, bandwidth, FTP accounts, databases, emails, and this is very useful if you want to sell certain kinds of packages. If you're a hosting company or if you're also doing reselling, this is really useful. Really useful feature for that. It's pretty straightforward how this goes, and I won't be going further into that. Furthermore, you have your databases. You can create new databases and use them for your applications. You need to have a website first before it can be connected. And because we use WordPress, it's already set up a database for this application by default, so we don't need to make it, which I think is great. You can also manage remote access if you want it. Furthermore, there's a backup functionality in which we can create a backup on demand, and we can do it locally by doing like this. Now the backup will be created locally within your server, so it won't be a remote backup, but a local backup. It's pretty useful if you make a mistake in the website. You can just use this backup. However, if your server fails, you also want to have a remote backup. And that's also possible by setting up Google Drive. What you need to do, I won't be going through these steps, but what you need to do is set up a new account and link it to your Google account. And then backups will also be pushed to this drive. It's also possible to use another backup destination, such as another server or a file server and such. And then you need to define the user for logging into that address and open up port 22. Furthermore, it's also possible to schedule backups. This will schedule the local backups, and at last you have the remote backups, which import to our website from a remote server. This backup functionality will create backups that are not incremental, so it will have a copy for each time you backup. There's also an incremental backup functionality, which will create backups only based on a change, which will be smaller in file size, and it works pretty similar as the main backup function. I won't be going into that into detail, but just good to know that it is in there. Furthermore, we can manage our SSL for each website that's already issued, so I don't think this will do anything special. We can change the SSL for our host names and also for our mail server. Then there are some server settings, and there are a couple of advanced settings in here, which is the web terminal, by which you can access the terminal within the web for the server. The Cyberpanel has support for Cloud Linux, by which you can use isolated accounts and also isolate and create packages which are linked to these isolated accounts. It's can give you more control over security and also performance if you're reselling or if you're having a hosting business. They have support for containerization, so putting up applications in different containerization. It's not Docker, by the way. They're not using Docker, but they have the possibility to put things in separate containers. They think they're pretty new. Actually, they have also a Docker manager actually in here. Containerization is used to limit CPU usage and search of applications, and the Docker manager is used for the real actually containers, but you need to install Docker first. Also pretty nice, I think. You can manage images, so you could also use a WordPress image from Docker and then use Docker to manage your applications. There's some tuning available in which you can tune some of the performance statistics of Litespeed and PHP. This will help you to fine-tune the performance of your server and make it as fast as possible. You can see the server status, so all the processes that are running, how much memory and CPU do they take, secure and load, and so forth. So you can see you've been using the Vultr high frequency package, and you can see this is pretty fast CPU for a server. You can see all the processes that are running now. There's a whole lot of packages. You can see the status of Litespeed. There's a log file for Cyberpanel, what's happening all in there, and there's some other things such as the server states change. You can change the port, and furthermore we can edit PHP. So this is the upload max file size. You will want to change this because is pretty small, and if you're uploading big images or plugins or themes in WordPress, this already will fill. So you will want to increase your post max size and upload max file size to make it work well with WordPress. You can also install some extensions for PHP, and most of them are installed by default. Furthermore, what we have is the logs, the access log, error logs, the email logs, and so forth. We didn't install the email functionality for the server, but it's possible to have emails if you do it. There are some security possibilities. You can manage your firewall, and these are all the ports which are open and used for the various protocols. You can also install mod security for enhanced security. Secure SSH. So we can disable, for example, the root login, which makes the server more safe, and only use SSH keys. And there are some other options to isolate user accounts with KHFS and Immunify RV can be installed to scan your server for malware. It's kind of the malware scanner, but then for your server. So as you can see, the amount of safety measures implemented is pretty wide. At last, you can manage some of the services installed. For example, they didn't install postfix, so it doesn't say a lot. You can put it on. You can also, for example, install Elasticsearch and Redis for a better search and performance. And at last, it's also possible to install plugins on Cyberpanel. So this is basically the whole package. It has been a lot. There's just this thing in here in which you can actually see a couple of the basic settings in here. You can quickly go to websites, packages, DNS. What we did in this video is create a website hosted by WordPress, which is a WordPress-based website on Cyberpanel. It can each website can be managed with a couple of settings, and the whole package, the whole Cyberpanel package, has a lot of possibilities for setting up a hosting business. So I did like Cyberpanel. I think the performance is good. Sometimes the usability is a bit complicated, bit redundant, and also don't expect too much from support because you're installing something on your own server. Of course, if there's a bug in the software, you can mention it, but it's not like there's live chat support available and you can ask them questions about WordPress all the day. And it also makes sense because the package is free, and I think they're delivering a wonderful package. So do you like Litespeed server? Do you want to set up a hosting business with it? And are you not afraid of these kind of panels, which show a lot of details? I think Cyberpanel is a great package. If you want to improve more in user experience and have greater support, there are some worthy competitors available. So thank you for following me along this video in following and installing Cyberpanel and running WordPress with Cyberpanel. This has just been an introduction. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and have an amazing day.